Greetings, YouTube. Amazingly enough, it's May 23rd and I'm still wearing a sweatshirt. There's a lawsuit going on at the moment because an adoption agency required a child to have their genitals surgically altered to make them more adoptable. That's kind of weird. I've spoken about gender and intersexed people here on my channel before, and the reality is that at least 1% of humanity is intersexed. They are not the binary switch of male, female, however you want to do that. Because, as most people might want to think, it isn't a binary switch. It isn't one or the other. There's a spectrum in there. And this has affected Olympic athletes because they have questioned whether someone is female or not. And, are they intersexed or not? And frankly, that isn't anyone's business. But some misguided members of the medical community feel that for a child to be normal, their genitals have to be a specific appearance. That unless it is this thing or that thing, that they will not fit into society. And one of the quotes in this little blurb here is, thinks the outcome of this case will help, quote, differentiate between parents/doctors making choices about actual health issues, unquote, and those that are, quote, are performed not for the benefit of intersex individuals, but for the benefit of society that is kind of freaked out by us and would feel better making an effort to make our bodies as mainstream as possible. And that's kind of my point. If altering a child's genitals, or an infant's genitals, is medically necessary, do it. Just as if a child has a difficulty doing grasping because they have additional digits, take the additional digits off. But if they don't have additional problem with additional digits, why take those digits off? They're not yours. If they aren't harming anything, leave them alone. If they are harming anything medically necessary, then surgery is warranted. Because a child can't grant consent, and a parent or guardian should be making decisions for that child that involves consent, that involve medical necessity. And if there is no medically necessary reason for altering a child's genitals, leave them alone. They aren't your genitals. That child should be allowed to grow up and make a decision about them when they know what their genitals are for, when they've decided which gender they are. Not to mention, after they've developed more, surgery is going to be more easy to do and going to be less likely to do irreparable harm after things have developed on a larger scale. And they may decide that they don't want to change them at all. And that's okay. It's their genitals. They should have that right to decide for themselves. And because this deals in the genitals, and it's a discussion here on YouTube, inevitably this is going to lead to circumcision. I am opposed to circumcision, whether it's for females or males. There is absolutely no justification for female circumcision. None. Zero. Nip. Nil. Nine. Non. Nada. And frankly, the court is still out on whether there is any benefit to male circumcision. Billions of males have been born, raised, lived their entire lives, and died without being circumcised, and they did quite well. And the species moved right along without any problem. So I think that we should not be mutilating the genitals of other people. That should really be their decision if they want to change their genitals. And I speak about this from personal history. I didn't find this out until quite late in life, but my grandfather was not circumcised. This freaked out his wife. Interestingly, I always wondered, how did my grandmother know what a penis looked like if she didn't ever have any contact with them? How had she been normalized to know what a penis is supposed to look like if she was the good little Catholic girl that she reports to be? It always made me wonder about that one. So my grandfather became uncircumcised. He had himself became circumcised, so he circumcised himself. And when I say he circumcised himself, I mean he circumcised himself. Yeah. No anesthesia. My grandfather had balls of steel. But when it comes to intersex people, leave them alone. It's not your genitals. It's not your problem. If there is no medical necessary reason for doing surgery, then don't. If society doesn't like it, screw society. That's their problem. Don't be altering someone surgically just so that they'll fit into the mainstream, until they'll be normalized. Especially when it's something that we don't have a clear grasp of, contrary to what most people will tell you. Gender is not the clear-cut thing that people would like to think it is. It just isn't. It's a spectrum. Just as sexuality is a spectrum. And we should be allowing people to make those decisions for themselves and not having those decisions imposed upon them. So yeah, like the title of my video says, why don't we stop mutilating babies?